Hey, good afternoon. It's Monday night. You know what that means? It's 8 o'clock. It's Dialogue with Dozy. You got one half of the fellas. KV, he's a question mark for a big part of the night. He's on assignment in the Ville. He's doing some stuff. But riding co-pilot with your brother tonight is my main man, D. Daryl Richardson. Good friend. Been knowing D about 13, 14, 15 years. Uh, Anybody who knows him is as if you've known him all your life. He has been on an important mission, and he's going to talk to us about it tonight. Hey, D, come on and join us, man. Uh, D, what's up, bro?
Hey, what's up, DB? I appreciate your brother having me on tonight, man. How are you?
We are all good, brother. All good. For you all who don't know, D is a good friend of KV, and we're really hoping he could be on tonight. It can be on, but for right now, we're going to make it. Listen, we're having some difficulty, and we're going to work with it. And just ask you all to work with us until we kind of work through this. The content's going to be greater than the production. So we're going to, not the production is great, it's just we're having some technical issues with the audio, but we're going to try to work through that. Hope you join us. Listen, tonight has been billed as a hot button Monday, and we apologize for the tardiness. We're trying to work these technical issues out. It's hot button Monday. Usually hot button Monday. You tell us what you want to talk about. We start the discussion. You chime in, and wherever it goes, it goes. And that's kind of what we're going to do tonight. But because D was gracious enough to come by and sit in on the dialogue tonight, we're going to start out talking about what has been the talk or the concern of most of Florida, and that is Hurricane Ian, whatever it is. D, you can help me. I started the week last week in Pensacola, and I was told that I needed to hurry up and get out of there because it was heading that way, like Monday or Tuesday of last week, or Tuesday or Wednesday of last week, and I started just kind of trying to work my way back home to South Florida, and I was not sure which way I'd get home, but I thought from the path of everything, if I hugged the East Coast, I'd be all right. But unfortunately, it didn't hit the Tampa. Unfortunately, it didn't hit where they had projected it to hit, but it hit the southwest coast of Florida really, really hard. And D was one of the ones with FEMA who went over to render relief to them. And I think D, you guys will pause for a minute while it was while it was doing some of its damage. D,
Yes, sir.
you
You're
guys were
breaking up
kind
real
of
bad. I can barely hear you. I'm sorry.
okay. So you guys were put on hold while you originally started over, and you all had to pause before you could get over to the area where you were going to render relief, right?
Yeah, Dozell, man. Let me first, man, say that let's be praying for those, our American citizens and patriots over there that's living in that area. Storm was devastating. Um, I know we look at it on the television and we kind of look at it through our telephones and news clips, but there's nothing like being on the ground and actually just kind of being a sole or a multiple witness to a disaster and how powerful can be. Be praying for those that's that they make it through it and the families kind of live through those remnants and now they got to bury loved ones that one day they were there with them and the next day something like a storm Ian came and man changed a lot of lives forever and it's important that we understand that but DV, being from a law enforcement background, man, one of the first things that we do as first responders or urban rescue or whatever you do, you want to go in and you want to make sure things are safe so your first responders can go in and deliver the services that they've been sworn to do from the law enforcement side, from the firefighters, from FEMA or Corps engineers, whatever the case may be. It's important that those places are safe. There's a lot of factors that go into that, as you well know. How much water's there. Power lines could be down. Man, you could have sewage washing over into the storm water and sewage. All those elements, You have wildlife, alligators, snakes, whatever the case may be. All those elements you have to deal with. So one of the things that our brave first responders are doing, man, is making sure that life as much life as possible to be protected. And sometimes once people like you and I step away from law enforcement, DV, and retire and move on with our lives, we don't have those resources and assets. So they have to kind of go in and make things right and safe at the same time, try and protect some type of quality of life and all those great things like that, man. So our hats and our thank you goes out, man, to their families, who's those first responders, their families who's dealing with them not being at home at night, working Alpha Bravo 12 hours on. Some of these guys been on, 24 hours, 36 hours, whatever, and just rescuing those who decided to wait that storm out, which the reality of it is that wasn't a good decision. And DB, we can kind of get into all of that when the storm was, when we learned about the storm as it was, forming down in South America, as it transitioned through Cuba and it came, through the Gulf and all that kind of good stuff. And I know there's a lot of finger pointing now about when people knew and when they should have evacuated and all that kind of good stuff. So there's a lot of that stuff going on. What we need to do is kind of come together, man, and like I say, lend our support, our prayers, and whatever resources you have, man. Get our fellow Americans and citizens, man, back to some type of quality of life, man. They're already dealing with a lot of devastating stuff, but sometimes, we get kind of crazy when it comes to the politics. I'm a Republican, Democrat, and man, them storms don't care anything about that. Just like
Yeah.
sickness,
Yeah.
property, none of that stuff cares. Nothing about what you're affiliated with.
Yeah.
We all are part of one race, and that's the human race. Ain't black or white when this stuff like this happening. Those are the things that I am is trying to get us back to, but for some reason, man, we're chasing the tail like a dog. We're chasing that tail like the dog, so you keep
Uh,
chasing it. But
let
go
me
ahead,
let,
brother.
let me ask you direct. You were I know you were heading over there when it was heading in that direction. Did you go over there within 24 hours of its moving on, or how long were you over there after? Uh,
After they had hit and left the area, um, the issue was DV, man, that it hit so hard, and man, I mean, it was quick, fast, and it hit and it pondered, and if it was just wind, we might have would have been all right, but it's a lot of water, man. And the thing about water is that Florida's embodied by water, if you know it, and there's nowhere for all that water that she bought in or he bought in. There's nowhere for that water to go, man. So those are all the inline things that they're dealing with. I mean, some people's, second floor of a building, man. Water's second floor of the building. So
Crazy.
somebody with limited resources like myself, guess what? You got to back out of there because you want to be safe and you want to make sure you get home to your family. So they got to bring them big guns in there, with the boats and the airboats and all that stuff, and they have to reach out to all our brothers and sisters that have those airboats and stuff. They come in and they work with law enforcement and they get in there, man, and they maneuver through all that stuff and they go in and yell out to everybody, blow whistles and all those intricate things that you need where somebody might, not hear you with your raising your voice. They hear whistles and all that kind of stuff. Hey, I'm here. I'm over here. All that kind of,
Oh
good
wow!
stuff. Yeah.
Did you actually encounter any of that where you calling somebody was actually needing to be rescued physically? Did you encounter that
Well,
on this expedition?
I initially responded over, and then they kind of was like, well, remember I'm a civilian now, so I'm kind of out of the scope of that good old stuff. So what they did is they wanted to kind of lend it to people that had resources that could address that. So I kind of stood by it just in case the water started receding and all that kind of stuff. Then we kind of get in there and provide services as that. But being part of a urban rescue team that's not sworn or volunteer, sometimes even though they need those resources, if you don't provide or you have what they need, sometimes it's not adequate for them to have you a part of the operation. So those are kind of some of the things you have to deal with, and we call those politics, but I try to stay away from that or politics, whatever you want to call it. That's what it is. You know what I'm saying? But
What
it,
where exactly did you land, or were you
uh,
actually
Collier,
in what
Collier County,
Collier County?
yeah, Everglades City, all that stuff back up in there, Fort Myers, all that stuff is, man, it just seemed like that storm.
And
I
yeah,
think
what did you see? Just share with us what you
just
actually saw.
a lot of water, a lot of watercraft sitting. Well, you didn't know what was a road or what was a piece of land or nothing. Only thing you saw was just water. It's like everything was a sea of things.
Wow.
So, yeah, I was hearing guys say that boat was a mile south of here, and that boat was here in somebody's yard, but you didn't know it was a yard. So you saw top of roofs and all that stuff that was covered, mobile homes, all that kind of good stuff. But it was I mean, just so much water that was dumped, and that
Wow.
water has nowhere to go. And then I think they got to kind of deal with the high tides and all that stuff. There's a dynamic and I mean, these guys that's into the, environmental science and all these guys know these dynamics. There's a dynamic, man, and these guys calculate this. It's amazing to see how they can calculate that stuff. And high tides coming in here, it should go out there, and all that kind of stuff. And those are the intriguing components of what you have. But with the combination of wind and water, man, and man, that stuff being tossed around, it's
So,
it's
so
it's ADV. It's amazing because, man, you know that this stuff comes from from I am, and what I mean by I am, some say God, but that stuff, man, that thing is powerful, man. That thing is, it's crazy, man. It's just powerful, man.
so D, we're looking at an image now of this roadway that was taken out. I think that was that
That's Fort
Sanibel?
Myers.
That's
That's
actually
Santa.
Fort Myers.
Yeah, that's going over to the Sanibel Island over there.
Yeah.
That was washed away. Of
And
course,
that's the
no
only that was the only means of
access.
getting over it. Oh my
Yes, it's
gosh.
the only means to access to that island, and unfortunately, man, that thing was there was some compromise with the structure of that thing from probably the wind. I'm sure the rain and all that kind of good stuff, and you can see, boy, that bridge is underwater. So it's about 50 feet of that bridge that was underwater. I did not make it that far, but a lot of a lot of my old compadres, that's part of those search and rescue teams. I got a couple friends that work with me as a policeman in Miami that's retired and moved on now. Wande Shaw, um, he's a supervisor in FEMA, so he gives me a play-by-play kind of, hey Daryl, you might want to just back out, head back to Fort Lauderdale. We're gonna do things this way, that way. So it's good. Um, I think the
So
heart was in the right place, so that's a good thing. But
so
a
we're
lot,
experiencing
a lot of devastation, man. A lot of devastation, man.
we're experiencing some technical difficulties, but we're asking our audience to just bear with us tonight. This is a frustration with devices, and I may try to see what I can do to help out a little later. But D, from that last graphic where that excess road was taken out, does that mean that's where the people were being airlifted? Who stayed on the island, they were being airlifted to safety or to high dry lands, or is that what we saw? The helicopters dropping the basket down. Is that where they were picking people up?
Yeah, I think what they DV that would be pretty much all of that, Punta Gorda, all those areas. I think what happened is these news outlets, they get in one area and they just kind of show certain things and they kind of loop it. But there was a lot of that going on. Coast Guard, man. That's why I say, we we have a difference of opinion, man, when it comes to a lot of different things. I don't care what it is, but when America that I know, man, been here 53 years, man, when things like happen, that man, the best come out of these people, man. I'm talking about don't matter white, black, yellow, brown, and I'm not into the white, black, yellow, brown because I think we just all part of one group, but the best comes out of these people, man. These guys sacrifice all that they know and have, man, to lend, to extend that olive branch, to make sure that you as a person that's being compromised by water, danger, whatever it is, man, these guys take that thing upon and these guys perform at a peak level. I'm talking all these guys are first responders. And man, it makes me feel good. Not everything about America makes me feel good, but that's life. But that
Yeah.
makes me feel great to see
So
everybody
so
set
so
aside
let
all
me
their partners and all that stuff they're on. And man, and they get in and they get in hard. And I love it, man. I really love
let,
it.
let me ask you this. We're going to talk about them a little bit at the break, which we're coming to in a second. Let me ask you, D, how does people how do people end up in those most devastating of circumstances where I understand the number of fatalities up to 85 now? Does that mean that they fail to evacuate or the storm sneaks up on them? What usually causes those numbers of fatalities? A hurricane,
Well,
you get a prior warning.
DB, I think adults are going to be adults, man. I think that there is if we look at things from a contextual standpoint, right? They tell you, don't touch that aisle. You touch it, it's going to burn you. We learned that growing up, right? So guess what? I'm going to play with it. So guess what? Now I know how to just, I ain't going to hold my hand up. So that's what I think adults do. So we get in a situation and it tells us, well, the storms in South America. It's coming up from South America and it's coming to the United States. It's gonna go through Cuba. When it got to Cuba, it was a Category 3. Man, that thing got in the Straits of the Gulf and it hits that warm water. It might be a Category 4. It's gonna hit Tampa. It's going, and then guess what? We don't know what God wanted to do or whatever you believe in. And guess what? He turned it back towards you. So now what we do is, guess what? I'm gonna ride it out. I live 3 stories high. I don't want to leave my Cadillac. I don't want to leave my grandbaby piano that my son bought me when I retired. All that stuff is material stuff. You you
Wow.
you get one round at this life thing we know as life is like a passport, white DV. You go out of the
Right.
country, they stamp you going in and they stamp you coming out, just like life. You got a beginning date and you got an end date. So here's what I'm saying. We value and we begin to value things that are not valued. If whatever gave it to you or whoever you believe in gave it to you will replace it. That's how you gotta live life. There's nothing. Your health and the quality of life, man. That's what you have. You came in this world naked and you're gonna leave here naked. So there's no need to be holding on to all that stuff. So them people who let me say who did a great job at the National Hurricane Center, they were giving us a play-by-play. You know, once the cone get closest to us, DB man, there's less time to maneuver. When the cone is 5, 6 days, you got all this time to board your windows up and all that. When that cone get closer, you need to already be hunkered down. These folks spend a lot of time, man, studying weather patterns.
Yeah.
There's a science to that. So guess what? Oh man, I'm just hunkered down. I'm gonna stay in my house. I'm gonna board my windows up. I got impact windows. All that stuff come into play. But impact windows ain't gonna save you from that wall top. Man, wall top is rough, man.
Well,
Well, that's what you get
I,
into.
I,
So
I,
we that's what we do, man. We compromise. We become adults. I'll make a decision. I'm just ride it out. And let me say this: for those that couldn't go, yeah, people that there was a young lady I saw with her. She had cancer. She said I stayed. They rescued her. She said she stayed because she wanted to get treatment. So things like that, you gotta, we gotta take that stuff in consideration. So you got sick people and all that. People that don't want to move, maybe on oxygen machines. They don't want to go and stay with their family. And listen to me, Davey. You know it's hard for us to stay with each other anyway. So I'm, I'm gonna have to go over here, man. I might want to keep my bathroom this way, my toilet this way. All those things come into play. So we become adults in those situations, and we make decisions, DB, and those decisions can cost us, brother. And that's where we're at.
well, I respect your making this a generic thing, and saying that this could happen to anybody, anytime, anywhere. There's no barriers, no colors, no political parties, none of that. But one of the things that I heard on the newscast shortly before we sign on tonight was that Florida, we have this governor who has this cavalier attitude that we don't take shots, we don't wear masks. Florida's a state that we let people have personal freedoms, and there's certainly a place for that. And supposedly that's one of the factors that could have played into this. That the order was given that mandatory evacuation was given supposedly at 50% or 10%, that when the storm was moving, and it started out, as you say, headed to Tampa, but then in the last couple of hours, they had the 40% notification where it was going to actually hit, where it did hit Southwest Florida. And individuals chose at that point, I don't know if it was a convenience issue at that point, or watching our stuff issue, or I'm just going to take the roll of dice issue. What's your take on that?
You mean what the governor is saying?
Well, on individuals with knowing that it was a 40% chance, and that last hour was a 40% chance was going to hit. I know if you're on Sanibel Island, you got a limited access road to get over. But how much do those things come to play? 40%. Well, we've been here for X number of years. They say it's going to hit here, and it doesn't. How much do you think that comes to play to people rolling the dice and actually suffering?
Boy, if man, I'm gonna tell you, if I can get in the majority of folks' head, man, we'll be in real good, man. I think, DB, when you the governor who who I might not agree with all of his policies, but I think he did a heck of a job on this. Governor DeSantis,
Okay.
I really do. I think that he he really did a good job. That's just me. You know what I'm saying? That's my opinion. So I commend him on that. Um, I think he deemed a state of emergency. I don't know what day it was, but man, when you start hearing stuff like that, and DB, the National Hurricane man gave us a play by play. See,
Yeah.
I don't. Here's what I'm saying. Let me see. Can I put this in a way of I don't want to offend anybody, but if I come to you and say, DB, you stick your hand in that basket, $1 million, but there's a venomous reptile in there, you're gonna bite it, you gonna die. You start. Do I get this $1 million or do I put a value on this or what I'm saying? So now we start putting value on things. So if I stick it in here, man, I got a 50% chance he might bite my hand, but then I got a 50. So that's kind of what I think adults do, man. We get into this thing,
Rolling the
man. We
dice.
go this way, and man, like I say, those are decisions that you live with and you die with. The sad part about it, DV, is those who decided to stay had the opportunity to get out and die, brother. They made a they made a decision that caused them death, man. That's a problem. See, man, you can Monday night quarterback call.
Yeah, yeah. Well, well.
You know,
Okay, we're going to break. We're going to try to clean up these technical difficulties. Let's hear a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back. Dynamic production work, GoGigaWorld.com. They've been doing this now for 2 years, and notwithstanding, this is not their fault tonight. These are audio difficulties that we're having, but they'll make you look good. They've been doing it for 2 years. They've done it for some of the major celebrities, major media outlets. Give them a shot for all of your video production, all of your websiting, all of your virtual work. GoGigaWorld.com. That's my daughter, Latoya Yvonne, and her friends, her team. They'll get it done for you. Tonight is a shout out. Tonight is a shout out. And I think we're going to start shouting out right here with my guest tonight. We call him D. His name is Daryl Richardson. Not only did you hear D talk about where he was heading, where he spent most of his week last week, uh, volunteer. He started out and they told him to pause because it was too dangerous. Then when they got over there, after a while, he came back. But it's people like him with the spirit to go and help people in their hour of need. You may have heard him. He said he's retired. He's a retired police officer. Yet he took time from his very profitable business to go and help somebody else. That's the American way. That's the human spirit. There are organizations. I was on the road and traveling. I was seeing all kind of volunteer organizations that were traveling south. I didn't know which way I should go. I said, if I'm going this way, they must be going to the heart of the storm. But I knew they were going to where people would need their help the most. The dialogue shouts all of you out. Uh, my wife is a former employee of the American Red Cross. I was a volunteer with the Red Cross. The work that they do, the endless hours that they put in to help make others' lives better, whether it's a natural disaster, whether it's a collection of blood, whatever organizations like that do. Right now, in the middle of a horrible aftermath of Hurricane Ian, you have volunteers. I was told at one point there were volunteers on top of volunteers over in Southwest Florida, helping individuals out, trying to help people to resort their lives. You know what? Many of those who were affected by the storm were senior citizens, were retirees who dream, and this is what they're dealing with. Shout out to everybody who has a spirit to volunteer to help make somebody else's life better. There's a song that we used to sing, reach out and touch somebody's hand, make this world a better place if you can. Every volunteer spirit, we shout you out on the dialogue tonight. We're back at it. We just dealt with what has been a sad situation hit Southwest Florida, and you heard D talking about splitting and leaving the scene when these things happen. When the last category, I lived through Wilma, and I'd heard being a transplant to South Florida, where a lot of hurricanes emanate. I'd heard that the Fort Lauderdale area had always avoided the hit. They Dade County always took the brunt of it, and I was in the Chicago area doing Hurricane Andrews with Clay Evans Church. We sent monies down to help restore. And after moving down here, I saw just how devastating that Category 5 hurricane was. I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago. A hurricane came through, and we heard it was going to be a 4, and it was headed right for Broward, Palm Beach County. Well, guess what? I got on that crowded I-95 turnpike, whatever I could cut over to get as far away from here as I could. As it turned out, that hurricane was so big, I can't remember the name of it, that I ended up getting a piece of it in Jacksonville. But it was nothing to the effect of what was predicted to hit us. And so I'm just closing this segment of the show by saying, if there is a storm heading your way, you heard Daryl say it most eloquently. They can make another item, but only God can make another you. And He's not going to make another you in this life. So protect this life that you've been given, you and yours. Let the things take care of themselves. Okay? Insurance, that's what it's for. We're switching directions. Indeed, we're talking about what has become quickly, it's a local thing for us because it's the Miami Dolphins, but it's a national story, and that is what we have seen happen to Miami Dolphin quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, and it's just there's so much controversy. You and I are both athletes. You were a star running back. Um, we know that in fact in our coaching that we share together now, we try to get these young men out as soon as they can. You know, we don't obviously we don't put them at risk. It's a school factor, so it's not just us that make calls. But if there's a way we can get them out and it's not going to cause them further damage, we do. Not so in the pros because that's where money is on the line, and even college because whether it's called amateur or pro, money's on the line there. Uh, just tell us a little bit about what you think of what we've seen the last week and a day now since Tua Tagovailoa was first injured in the Buffalo game down here, and then 4 days later injured in Cincinnati, what was confirmed a concussion. Share with us your thoughts on that.
Hey, DV, let me say this to you, man, and I'm not because I'm on your show, but I mean, I've been knowing you. I was telling your daughter I've been knowing you, man, who's your producer, and ever since I've been knowing you as a coach with me, and just as a fellow brother, man, you've always lived your creed. You've always lived an example for me and the other coaches and all part of that good staff over with our good friend Steve Davis over at Plantation. But you've always allowed us to be us as men and man, say some of the things that we say, and you would always take it in, deliver it, and then you would give us you give it to us just raw and unadulterated. But I tell you, man, it will be some type of morality and some type of will and constitution that maybe your dad and your mom put in you, man. So I want to say thank you for that, brother. And I always tell you that. I always tell you, even when I talk to you, man, I love you, man. I love you because you've always, man, exemplified that. So that's what it's all about. Each one teach one, man, and we go here. DB, I don't know if you remember this. We was on the field one day, And I mean, I know your audience, might not be, I'll keep it respect. And I said, DB, man, I said, man, I said, every now and then, man, I like to go and watch me some porn. And you told me, you said, there, man, porn this to you, breaks you down, da 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 da. And then you gave it to me from a scriptural standpoint. So those are the things that we've been able to talk about, you and I, some very personal issues. And I love you, man, for that, and I appreciate it. Now,
Bless you, brother.
as far as this whole thing, man, the NFL is a great business. It's a big business. It's a business model that has withstand. But the issue you have with concussions and injuries and all that stuff, long term, I think everything's going to come home to roost now. Last week when I saw Tua, and I hope the brother's doing well, man. And let me say that, man, these guys are fine-tuned athletes, man. Don't ever think, guys be like, oh man, they shouldn't make. Let me tell you, some of them guys dedicate their lives. Those guys make sacrifices. Those guys put their bodies through a lot of trauma, man, to give you guys or give us uh, a well-deserved show on Sunday, Monday, or whenever it is, even with the college students. But the body takes a lot of trauma. And when I saw Tua, first thing I said is, I looked at the screen. I said, "Oh man, he's got brain injury." The first thing I said. Now that was from my experience being a police officer. You arrive on the scene, somebody's been shot in the head, or somebody's been shot, or in a car accident. And the first thing you see is those hands, those it seem like the neurons or whatever going on with the neurons in the brain. It causes the fingers and stuff like atrophy or whatever it cause those fingers to lock up. And that's the first thing looking at television. I was like, man, he's got brain damage. But I did not know the extent of he had played in a game on Sunday and DV. And I guess he had some issues with somebody hit him in his head on Sunday. And I guess he was cleared by, the team physician. Now listen to him. I don't know if I'm saying this right. Team physician and or a independent source or neurologist that deals with concussions. As far as it comes to these great athletes. Here's what I found just in the last couple of days, kind of reading. I guess the NFL has somebody that's independent, that they have come in and they assess these players once they've had, or they own what they call this concussion protocol to make sure they clear to go. Here's the thing. Here's where I think we kind of get in trouble at here if I'm part of the NFL, which I'm not. That independent source is hired by the NFL. So
Yeah,
I,
right.
I believe, I think that's might be a conflict of interest only because if that person that is doing the evaluating DV cannot evaluate on a true scientific scale and it being influenced by coaches, how you position coaches, owners, and all that kind of stuff. I think, man, that we have an issue there. Here's what I think is going to happen. Congress is probably going to get involved, and they're probably going to want to start seeing a lot of insight or some oversight on how this protocol is handled and the way that we get players back on the field. And I understand NFL it's a winning business and people love winners, but I think that it comes to a point where when your life and your quality of life is going to be affected and all that kind of stuff, and that beautiful wife you have, you sucking out of the straw, and then another man got to service her because you can't. All those things you might want to think about. That's just me. You know what I'm saying? But hey, it is what it is. But I do not, because these guys spend their lives trying to get to the top of the mountain, and man, God bless them. But I think that once that head starts getting beat up in the brain and the spine gets involved and all that, I just think it's time to just sit back and say, hey, you know what? Maybe I've run my course, or maybe it's time for me to move on now and breathe, be the smart, brilliant man you are, the king that you are. Be that man, just go into business, doing something else, maybe become a coach and all that kind of stuff. But I think my brother Tua was dealt the injustice hand by saying, "Hey, you're ready to go." Man, he put it right back out there, and DV, he ended up, man, getting himself. He had some brain trauma, man. He was just for me being a traffic homicide officer responding to and seeing guys, and they're all bent up in the car and after being it's brain trauma, man, and it's a bad thing, man. He's a young, vibrant man. He's got a whole life ahead of him, and I understand he's doing what he's enjoying. What better life you can have. But brother, I can tell you this, man. Without your brain, boy, I tell you boy, you take that stuff for granted. Boy, that stuff real, man. So
So the images you're looking at now are the images at the Buffalo game, and I mean, so we're not what do they call? We're not uh, ones that do the brain, neurosurgeons or anything like that. But the first set of images, I wish we could go back to the first set, to the white pictures. That was the Sunday game right there. That was a Sunday game. That was after he had hit the turf, been taken down, and he got up. He got up from that position. He stumbled. He got his bearings. Then, as he headed towards the huddle, he stumbled again. Now, I'm not a neurosurgeon, but my initial instinct was, hey man, this is a obvious concussion. And then he went to the sideline and came back out of the second half, and they when they listed it as ankle and back injuries, I was like, man, I played enough ball and been hit in the head enough to know what I saw was not consistent with an ankle or a back injury. I got hurt in a police car. My back, in fact, my career basically was lost because of a back injury in the police car. Nothing that we saw last Sunday was consistent with an ankle or a back injury. That looked more like head trauma. They brought him back, and he made it through the game with no problems. And then Thursday night, a few nights ago, when he hit that ground, his head hit the ground more violently. It was more like a direct hit. The first thing I saw, D, was not his head hitting the ground. First thing I saw were those fingers that you just mentioned. We can get that shot where his fingers, you can see him kind of crinkle up there. His fingers, where that last shot had, where those fingers were crinkled up. I had never seen that before. And the first thing I thought about, oh my goodness, there he goes, his fingers, he's hurt again. That was the first thing I thought about. You even see it on the Sunday game where his fingers are crinkled. I thought, oh, he's hurt his hand. Then when I looked back at in the dark uniform, when I looked again, I said, oh my gosh, he didn't even get hit. The guy never hit his hands. The ball didn't wrap his hands. He didn't fall on his hands. And then I started hearing what you and I affectionately refer to as the clown line, our coach's line. Some of the guys made the comment that you made that it was definite head trauma at that point. Then when we came back from the break and he was still down, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, he wouldn't be down that long with a hand injury. Then I saw him tightening up his head and all the precautions, and then we saw him, of course, taking him off. And you saw the team sitting there praying with him. I mean, everybody standing around. Uh, he was being wheeled off, and then the next thing you saw, the whole team, both teams came out, and it was serious. And then the TV commentators start referring to it as an obvious head injury. Uh, my question is, and I've listened to all the commentators from Stephen A. Smith to Ryan Clark and other football players. They're saying the big guys, even though Tua's on that first contract, and we understand he's out there on the last year trying to get that contract. But what good does it do if you don't get to go back out there again because you have hurt your head? And so one of the things I heard today was there was a person who said that Tua number one should not play again this year because it's obvious that he's kind of susceptible to concussions, and number two, when he comes back, he should not play for the Dolphins because they didn't treat him right. Did you see any of the coaches, any of the local commentators' comments about him playing and not putting him in harm's way? What was your take on that?
well, man, I think Davey, when you start talking about health, man, listen to me. Everything starts in the we call it the spirit. Everything starts in the mind. Everything we do, breathe, all that stuff come from. Man, when you start jeopardizing that, and you start penalizing your body, once the brain goes, the whole body's done, man. That's why a lot of people when they get this thing they call what's the disease of the brain? What do they call
CTE.
it? Yeah,
CTE.
yeah. and that's why they end up dying. The brain starts, whatever it goes on. So, you have damage of that tissue. Now, I'm not a neurosurgeon and all that, but I work traffic homicide long enough to know in Miami, Florida, and know where brain damage is. And I remember, and we'll get to your question. I remember one night I'm working midnights, and I'm I'm not in homicide yet. We're working, and I pull up. There was 7 kids coming from a basketball game. Central was playing Northwestern or somebody like that. I forgot what it was. Down in Miami, right there, 89. I'm sorry, 81st and 6th Avenue, right by 95. So we get a call, 3:15, which that means that officer needs some. So we get down there. It's nine young people, all of them dead in the car, and everything we took out, man, they had so much brain trauma. DUI, blew through the stop sign, man, killed all 9 of those kids, and they had all of them. The fingers was like that, and one of the guys, medical examiner came and said, Richard, you know what that is right now? I said, no, it's my fingers look like that. He said, why are you trying, man? He said, that dude was so hard. Nobody had on the seatbelt. The A pillar of the car, the B pillar, and all that stuff just, kind of, the head bounced off that thing, man. And it just, so I said this to say that those guys had head trauma and it killed them. So the thing is, you don't understand the totality of you just getting pounded on your head. If you think about this here, man, I come to your show right now when I leave and I just start pounding you on your head. Just pounding you on your head. You know what I'm saying? I've heard guys say stuff like, well, he's got to learn how to throw the ball faster and all that. The man's a competitor. The man's at the top of the food chain. He's a competitor. He's trying to win at all costs. So guess what? His true nature, something that he's been raised to do all his life, right, DB? Is to win. So he's going to win at all costs. That's why he's in the NFL. National Football League, you're winning at all costs. So guess what? I'm going to hold the ball longer. I'm going to let my receiver get open. Boom. Dan Marino was great at this, right? One of the best ever done it. If the Duper brothers wasn't open 2 point something seconds, boom, Michael Irvin, another great man. Troy Aikman, love those guys. Mike know how to get open, boom, you get that football to him and he goes. The problem you have now, man, is that number one, two is a little bit smaller than most of those quarterbacks you have out there now. A little smaller, so that's why you're going to take that punishment. But here's the thing, though, man. I've heard guys say all kinds of stuff. Oh, Tua's got to learn how to get rid of that. Oh, that's fine and well. Here's the thing, though. Last Sunday, he was injured in the Bills game. Somebody cleared him in that organization.
Yeah.
They cleared him, and he went back Thursday Night Football, and the man had head trauma. You saw it for yourself. The eye in the sky ain't going to lie. You saw head trauma. That's what you saw. You saw head trauma. I'm going on record telling you saw head trauma. So all that other stuff is just a tongue. That's all it is. That's just, Monday Night Quarterback. The man was in trouble. Here's what we got to be thankful for is that we haven't heard anything from him. Hopefully he's all right. You don't know.
Yeah. He did text. He sent a tweet out thanking the organization, thanking America and everybody for their prayers and concerns. But you laid it out. Yes, he wants to get back. That was the last statement. I can't wait to get back out there with my brothers on the field to compete. There's that pressure. There's that pressure. Fern, one of our dear fans of the show, says the NFL needs to be the protector of these players. As an employee of the NFL, they are in charge. And it goes back to the point that you made earlier, that the NFL has a consultant that's not the Dolphins person. Now, one of them has fallen on the sword. One of the Dolphins doctors has fallen on the sword. And I just wonder, is it organizational? And I like this coach. I won't get into that whole coaching transition they made, but I like him. I like his passion for humanity. I saw him when we lost an executive earlier this year. I saw him at his true essence. He said if he thought, but it's almost as though he passed the buck up. He said the medical staff cleared him. So, is it possible that he came back and had a second concussion? You can't fool me. Like you said, eye in the sky. Last Sunday, that was not back and ankle injuries. That was a concussion there. Their reaction was a reaction of a concussion. Do you think they should hold him out the balance of the year? Troy Aikman, you mentioned Troy Aikman. course, it was at the end of the dynasty with Michael and Troy and Emmett and group. But Troy became very susceptible to concussions. He had like 3 in the course of a year, and he gave it up. I mean, it wasn't in the middle of the dynasty, granted, but he might have been able to stick around 2 or 3 years and been productive, if not Dallas somewhere, and he gave it up because that was when the big CTA thing was really breaking out. So, just what word would you have for men who push their kids to play ball? What word would you have for them?
I think I understand, man, that football is a gladiator sport. It's a sport, man. It's full contact. That's one of the only sports. You hear me say this all the time, where you can hit somebody and legally not go to jail. Here, here's what I can tell you, man. If you're thinking about, and we all did it, we all played it, and our dads played it and all that kind of stuff. But one of the things when my dad was living, and God bless him, he's been going a while. I used to tell him, man, well, I didn't know how to play golf. So like Tiger Woods and all those guys. I know that's all. But man, I tell you, man, think about this stuff. I don't know, DB. I don't think they should have contact before 11, 12 years old. I really don't. I don't think they should have. And I understand there's a big business in the little league. I'm not knocking those guys. We got a lot of great coaches at the little league level. A lot of those guys are good. Got a lot of, it's not for me to say good or bad, but I just think that kids, man, at early age, they're hitting and they're banging their heads and all that. DB, man, that thing, I'm telling you, DB, that thing takes toll on us, man. DB, I was a policeman for a lot of years in Miami, man, and I played football. Listen to me, man. There's stuff that I deal with now, man, that's just from seeing things or encountering things or doing things that sticks with me now. And those are those demons or skeleton claws, whatever you want to call it, that you have to deal with every single day. So here's what I'm saying to you. Why compromise a man brain, what I'm saying, with that totality? And like I said, now, DB, here's my thing. You know, Stephen Ross is suspended now. So he's suspended because of some violations of the NFL. I wonder would it have been different if he had been allowed to make the decision, because I mean he's the boss, Stephen Ross. He's all the
Right.
boss. And I'm wondering if he had, because I don't think he can be affiliated with any of the decisions, the day-to-day operations, because of the suspension, which is good, good or bad. I don't know. I don't know the circumstances of that, but I know he's suspended. Uh, but I wonder, DB, would that have made a difference in um, tour, being out there on Monday? I wonder if Stephen Ross would have did something different.
Well,
You know,
You and I both know, suspended or not suspended, Stephen Ross is calling the shots. He's getting the word there. Now, him being suspended clears him from this particular situation. But you and I both know that he calls the shot. Listen, we're going to have to leave it here. I've been trying to get this gentleman on for a long time. He mitigated his schedule tonight to be with us. Again, apologies to you all for the technical difficulties. We'll have them clean up the next time he comes on. He's highly opinionated, highly intelligent. He's highly versed. He's been around. He's seen a lot. He knows a lot of stuff. D, we can't wait to get you back on. We know you're far bigger than disasters in sports. Uh, we got to get you back on soon and very soon. Thank you. You got a last comment heading out the door?
hey, DB, man, I appreciate you, brother. Listen to me, guys. Hey, Bernard Morgan, a good brother right here before Lauderdale, has a brand, True Heart. DB, I don't know if you mind me saying that. Good brother, man. Good family, man. Love his family. Hey, support that brother, man. He's a real good man. We call him
Let
Nicky.
let us see the shirt. Pull the shirt up. Let us see the shirt.
There it is.
That's right. True Heart. That's Bernard. What's
Bernard Morgan.
Bernard's nickname?
Right.
Yeah,
DB, I
amen.
wanted to play this, man, because I know you know his wife and you've been a part of her life a long time, being affiliated with the church over there. So just wanted to.
Coretta's been on the show. She's been on the show and she'll be back.
Yeah, man.
So
Yeah.
thank
Hey, DB, listen to me, man. Take care of yourself. I love you, man. Hey,
bless you, D. Love
keep
you,
doing that
man.
great work, man. And to your daughter, man, I thank you guys for having me. Man, I hope we we can continue to climb and lift each other. Guess what? All days ain't gonna be great days, but guess what? We protected by edge, man. So we're gonna be all right, man. I love you, man. You take care of yourself now.
Bless you, D. Love you back, man. God bless here, you and family. Thank you, brother. And
Cool.
so and so you have it. Uh, If we were to do tonight, as I see it, it would just be perseverance. Number one, we persevered through the issues. We made a decision to do that because we knew that the content that Daryl would bring to tonight's show would be well worth it. His insight, his experience, and his perspective would be well worth to share with us. We're not going to pass judgment. We're just going to say our thought. Now, we, our prayers, our love, and everything within us goes out to our Florida family in Southwest Florida, and maybe many of you don't know it. Naples is just across Alligator Alley, like an hour and 15 minutes away from here, and it flooded. Uh, we had family that potentially could have been really harmed throughout this whole storm. We're here in South Florida. Two of our three kids are in Central Florida. Our producer, the daughters in Jacksonville, my mother and brothers and sisters are there. And so I don't have sisters, I have sisters in love. Um, and all three areas were slated to be hit. And Orlando had just the flood damage that you saw posted on the thing. So we're grateful, but our heart and our prayers go out to our brothers and sisters in Southwest Florida, and we pray that that number of loss is diminished. We know things can be gotten, but lives will never be, cannot be resurrected on this earth like this. So we're our prayers with our people, and we're just asking that the best happens for the tour for Tua himself, and we'll worry about football. We'll worry about 3-1 record. We'll worry about the Miami Dolphins going to how far in the playoffs. They got Teddy Bridgewater coached against him. He played against my son. All of that stuff takes a back seat. We just wish the best for Tua Viola and his family, and that's how we see it tonight on the dialogue. We hope KV's with us. Well, he'll be on assignment next week. Listen, we wanted to get Leo from the band Temperature from one of the cruise ships that was going to be with us, the Harmony of the Sea, and we had another young lady. We talked about it last week who cruises once a month, and we had to catch her when she's not cruising. Uh, but we hope to have that in the next coming 2 weeks. Next week, as we prepare for this election cycle, we're going to look at our statewide elected officials, Governor Ron DeSantis. We're going to look at um, Senator Rick Scott and Senator Mario. Uh, what is his last name? I can't even think of his name. Anyway, we're looking at the two of them, and Marco Rubio. Rubio and DeSantis are up for re-election on November the 8th, and we're going to talk about them next week. So we don't want to be biased. We're going to present a record and let our audience comment on the record. So we may get some of those who are politically astute to be with us to make a fair and objective evaluation of them as we head into this cycle. We're looking for you. We're so glad you're here. Good seeing you tonight, Fern. Give Bob our love. Dialogue with Dozy. It's a wrap.